Welcome back to Cinematic Sarcastic, podcast that talks all things movies and television. I'm Natalie, and I'm your host. On this episode, we are going to talk about American Primeval. This is a new Western drama series on Netflix. I have not finished this one. I know there are only 6 episodes. I'm only 4 episodes in, but I wanted to talk about it. I'm sure everyone else has already kind of started this one if you have seen it and heard about it. This one is basically a story about a woman named Sarah and her son trying to navigate through the Wild West during what is the time period of the Utah War. Now, for anyone who's kind of not familiar with what the Utah War is, this is when the very first sort of original, quote unquote, Mormons, led by Brigham Young at the time, the United States government in its early baby infancy, the Native Americans that were in that area at the time. I believe there's like the Ute, the Shoshone, there were a couple of other tribes also in that area at the time, sort of fighting for land, fighting for space, fighting among each other. And anyone that is trying to navigate passage from one side of the United States to the other through what was Utah at that time kind of got stuck in the middle. And that's exactly what is happening with Sarah, this character, and her son as they're trying to journey from one place to another. They do get picked up or sort of led by Taylor Kitsch, who plays the character Isaac in this show. I will say American Primeval is probably one of the grittier, more gruesome Westerns that I think we have seen in quite a while. Not that, a lot of the Westerns aren't that way. I think we got a little bit of that in some movies prior to this television series, but American Primeval really kind of goes just one step further from a lot of other things that I have seen. Like, they do really good, well, I don't know if good is the right word, but they do really sort of close-up shots of, the tanning process that was going on back then and cleaning of animals and the sort of kills that happen between this, arrow shots, and there's a really close-up sort of depiction of a man who is like halfway scalped, I suppose. He does live through this experience, but it is definitely on the more bloody, true to probably what was more realistic at the time of a lot of Westerns that we've seen. So if you are squeamish or you don't like that kind of content, I do not think American Primeval is for you. And for me, it's a little bit too much. It's kind of why I haven't been able to just binge watch it as quickly as I've seen a lot of other people do, getting through the 6 episodes rather quickly. This one is just a tiny bit hair too gruesome for me. I don't enjoy that kind of bloody gruesome stuff. It's why I have a trickier time watching horror movies and things is because I don't really like that sort of side of stuff. Realistic though it may be, I just have a hard time kind of processing a lot of that. So even though I can recognize that American Primeval is a good show, it's a good drama, the characters in this I think are good, the story being told is one that is interesting and leaves me kind of wanting more. At the same time, I don't know that I would tune in for a second season, for instance, if they were to do one. I think it's going to take the majority of my willpower just to make it through the entirety of this season, but I would still recommend it. I will say, just as a tiny caveat, the story being told here is a fictional story, even though it is taking place in kind of a historic time. Sort of think of it in relation to maybe Dances with Wolves. What was going on around that time is exactly what's being depicted, but the specific characters and specific story that we are going along the ride for are not real. So there was no John Dunbar happening in that time frame. There is no Sarah Rowell in this. There is no Isaac in real life. Brigham Young, I think, is is probably one of the characters that I know for sure was a real person at that time. But whether or not any of these events happened in this particular way with Brigham Young, I am not sure if that's true. I know the director has come forward and said he wanted to make it as realistic as possible and follow as close to historical, accounts as he could, while also telling this fictional story. So this is not going to be a historical accurate telling of everything that was going on at that time during the Utah War, but it is probably as close as it could be with a fictional story being told at the same time. So I think that this one is definitely worth watching if it's in your wheelhouse, if you are okay with the grittier, sort of bloodier side of American history. I definitely think it is worth a watch. I would love to know what you guys thought of American Primeval if you have watched this one. Subscribe to join the Movie Nerd family, and I hope to see you in the next episode.